right, neighbors, enough about real estate. Let's get to grilling. Hey neighbors, I'm Steve Wickett and welcome to another episode of Cribs and Ribs. Today we're doing a Tomahawk ribeye steak. And everything that I use here today I got from Smith's down there on Aliante in the 215. They're not giving me a plug or anything. I'm just letting you know that because if you see me down there and you have any questions about any of this, please don't hesitate to ask. Hope you found that monthly market report to be useful. If you have any thoughts about buying or selling in the area, you'll find a little snapshot right there on the flyer that'll give you a little bit of an idea of what's happening in the area. But for now, this month we're cooking a nice tomahawk steak. Tomahawk is just a fancy ribeye, basically. It's eye peeling because it's got the big bone right here. In the actual anatomy of the steak here, you'll find different terms in different places, but this is known as the fat cap. It's mostly fat and you can discard this whole thing if you like, but that nice little nugget in there just based up against the bone underneath all that fat. Comes out nice and soft and really flavorful, so I wouldn't throw it away personally. This is gonna be the eye of the ribeye. It's also nice and marbled. That's the prize of the steak. But my favorite part is this little horseshoe out here. I call this the decal. That's what I've always called it. But again, different strokes for different folks. But the decal here I think is the best part. It's got a nice meaty texture with nice layers of fat all through that whole thing. It's chubby if you can see that. And then of course, after you slice all these off the bone, you've got this left here for the pooch. Something for everybody. Okay, with any steak, salt and pepper is gonna be your basics. But for this ribeye here, the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna put a nice layer of kosher salt all over it. You're gonna cover it in kosher salt. And you may think I'm crazy. Don't worry, we're gonna take this off here in a bit. But you're gonna, when you pull that out of the fridge, you're gonna cover it up in kosher salt here, and you're gonna let that sit for probably about an hour, maybe a little bit more, while you're letting it get up to room temperature. Now that we've covered the steak in kosher salt, it's time to let it sweat. What that means is the salt's gonna draw a lot of the moisture out of that beef and it's gonna replace that moisture with some salt, give it a base to the flavor, but also kind of concentrate those nice beefy flavors as well. You're just gonna let it sit like this for about an hour. You really wanna let this steak come up to room temperature. If you don't let it come to room temperature before you put it on the grill, the inside won't even start to cook by the time the outside is done or even burnt. So this tomahawk here is gonna have a two-process cooking method. The first thing we're gonna do is throw this in the old pellet grill. You know, I got one for Father's Day and I'm sold on these pellet grills. They make it nice and easy, but however you like to cook slow and low, go ahead and do it. You can start out sous videing it, but Cribs and Ribs, we like to use the smoker. So I'm gonna use the pellet grill for this one today. We're gonna do a reverse sear on this steak today. It's gonna give it a nice caramely, crispy bark on the outside while the inside will be buttery soft and tender. I'm gonna show you how to do it from front to back. But now that we've got the steak salted, I'm gonna go fire up that pellet grill. We salted this steak an hour ago, and you can see that it's begun to sweat. If you look at the liquid underneath, it's mostly clear with a little bit of a red tint. That's because that's not blood that's coming out of there. It's mostly just water. So that's really concentrating those nice beefy flavors, really gonna give it a great texture. This is the way to go. From here, we just wash it off in the sink with cold water. Then we're gonna pat dry it with paper towels and it'll be ready to season. Mostly all you're gonna need is salt and pepper, but I'll put some brown sugar in here too. I did about 2 parts salt to 1 part black pepper and 1 part brown sugar. So we're gonna go ahead and just sprinkle this all over the steak, nice and generously. Give it a quick rub. Go ahead and do the other side. Give that a quick rub. All right. I got a little bit left. I'm gonna go ahead and get my sides done too. Just go ahead and throw this on the pellet grill. Now you can do this first part however you like. you can use indirect heat and cook it over charcoal. We're gonna go ahead and use the pellet grill. I know some of you think it's cheating, but you gotta try one of these things. It even comes with a meat probe. Stick that right there in the ribeye. Get it right in the middle. And that'll just stay in there the whole time. And it'll show right here on the display the outside temperature, or pardon me, the temperature inside the grill as well as the temperature inside of the beef. Put this right in the middle. So this will take maybe an hour, maybe a little bit more, but we're gonna let this come up to an internal temperature of 120 on that steak. At that point, we're gonna take it off the grill, let it rest for a little while we're prepping the second step. Trust me, this is how the pros do it, and it's gonna impress all your friends and family. So the steak's been in the smoker for about 90 minutes. It's about 120 on the inside. We're gonna pull it off of the smoker and go and finish it off in a pan. It's gonna be restaurant quality, everybody. Now we're going to reverse sear the steak. Now this is a method that works great for any steak or chop. Normally I would recommend doing this with cast iron. Cast iron really works great for this step. I'm using the griddle here because the lip is a little bit shorter, and so the bone, when it sticks over the top of the pan, it's gonna leave a little bit more surface area of that steak in contact with the pan and get that seared up a little bit better. For this step, everyone, you're gonna need a stick of butter cut into pats. You'll need a nice sprig of rosemary and some garlic cloves as well. But you wanna get this pan screeching hot. You're gonna start out the pan with just a touch of olive oil, just to kind of lubricate that pan up a little bit. And this will help your butter from really burning too quickly. The butter's gonna turn brown during this process, but that's perfectly normal. Now that pan and olive oil are nice and hot, we're just gonna put that ribeye right in the pan. Move it all the way towards the side as close as you can so that you have more of the surface in contact with the pan there. At that point, we're gonna throw in about half the butter. We're gonna toss in the rosemary and the garlic. Tilt the pan towards you just a touch. And what you're gonna do here is just spoon that butter right onto the steak. And you're gonna do this for about 3 minutes. And this keeps that steak basted with butter, keeps it nice and moist, and really gets the flavors of the garlic and rosemary into the steak quite a bit. You'll be surprised. But anytime you share a porterhouse or any of the larger steaks at most of the steak houses, they're going to be using this reverse sear method at some point. As you can see, with the lid of this griddle right here, or the lip of this griddle, pardon me, the bone is sticking up a little bit, and it's leaving a little bit of this steak out of contact with the griddle. That's that fat cap. So that fat cap's gonna be a little bit more rare, as you'll see when we carve it. But you know, there's gonna be somebody that likes that nice rare beef. Again, we're gonna be doing this for about 3 minutes on each side. As you can see, that butter's starting to toast some. It's nothing to get alarmed about. Try to keep that garlic and rosemary in the butter, make sure it runs over it at least anyways. Now when we flip the steak over, we're gonna put the garlic and rosemary on top of the steak. And then as we baste with the butter, we're gonna pour that butter right over the top of the garlic and rosemary. Again, really just doing a great job of infusing those flavors into the beef. Now I'm going to flip this over, just use a pot holder and grab that bone there. Oh. And if you look, you'll see there's a nice, beautiful, dark crust on the top of that steak there. That's really going to be packed with flavor. So again, we're going to go ahead and put the garlic right on top of the steak, along with the rosemary. And let's go ahead and toss in the rest of that butter. Tilt it towards you just a little bit. Now when you're doing this, everybody, You got to be real careful not to spill hot butter on yourself. If you do, that's going to be very unpleasant, and I am not claiming any responsibility for that. This is your disclaimer warning right here, everybody. Before you do this step, take any precautions you might need if you're worried about spilling hot butter on yourself, but be real careful not to do that. Oh, this is going to be delicious. The aroma coming off of this is absolutely magical. And this is a little extra work than what you might be used to for cooking a steak. But everything worthwhile is, isn't it? And this really gives it that great bark. And the inside of the beef is going to be nice and buttery soft. Also, when you're done cooking the steak, this melted butter is awesome to drizzle over the top, or you can, put it on bread if you like, but definitely don't let it go to waste. And then these little pieces of garlic are fantastic as well. A little aggressive, but really tasty. Whoops, get back over there. All right. And that's pretty much going to do it. I'm going to give it about 1 more minute. I'll turn it off the heat. We'll take the steak off and let it rest for a few minutes. You really want to let that steak rest. That way when you slice into it, the blood doesn't run all over your plate. And then we'll enjoy it. Behold, everyone, your smoked, reverse-seared tomahawk steak. But the steak's been resting for about 10 minutes. It's time to carve and serve. So neighbors, to carve this ribeye, just start off by taking that bone off there. Oh, and that's going to be Jasper's portion. He can't wait. And as you can see, we got some nice color on the inside of that steak. All right, from there, we're going to go ahead and slice off this fat cap. All right, just cut it right off of the eye there. And then we're going to do the same thing with the decal. We're just going to go ahead and cut that right off of the eye, and that comes off really easy, as you can see. It's really hard to mess that up. You can see the lines in there. It makes it nice and easy. All right. First, we'll start off with this fat cap. As you can see, now again, a lot of this didn't even get contact with the grill, so we're nice and rare in there. This is really tender, soft meat. It's been basting up against a really fat layer a really thick layer of fat. It's been basting up against a really thick layer of fat. And this you can kind of slice into medallions depending on how many people you're feeding. All right, and if you have those people who really don't like the fat, then you have more of this for yourself. Okay. The eye, we're going to slice the eye against the grain. Okay, you can kind of see the grain's running this way. All right, so we're going to slice at an angle right down this way. Oh, it smells so good and it's nice and tender. Can't wait to taste it. All right. I've got a family of 6 here, so I'm gonna get at least 6 slices going. And then not to mention that beautiful decal. This is my favorite part of the steak, everybody. And that's how it's done. If you want to make it look pretty, everybody, there's a lot of different ways we can go about doing that as well. Put the less uniform and less beautiful pieces towards the bottom there. Then we're gonna fan out those slices. That's the one I'm trying right there, everybody. When I plate my steak, I like to do it with the 3 separate portions. That way everybody can try some of each. You've got that nice fat cap towards the top. The eye of the steak in the middle is going to be the leanest, but it's still got a great amount of marbleization. And then down towards the bottom of that plate there, you'll find that beautiful decal. It's time to give it a taste. Oh, take a good look at that. You can see we're looking at a beautiful medium rare plus. It's nice and juicy, just glistening. It's got a beautiful smoke ring from the smoker there. It's nice and smoky, very juicy. Those beefy flavors really concentrated nicely. You're really gonna enjoy this recipe, everybody. If you see me around down at Smith's or anywhere in the neighborhood, I would love it if you'd say hello. If you have any questions about this recipe, don't hesitate to call, email, or text. We'll see you next time.